In Chapter 4, we are studying the human body and how nutrition relates to its function. With basic concepts, we have to understand chemistry and human physiology when we're understanding nutrition. Chemistry is the study of composition and characteristics of matter, and human physiology is how the body functions. All of these are foundations for the science of nutrition. Chemicals make up food. Humans are complex collections of chemicals, and much of which is organized into cells. So a lot of the food that we eat comes from different elements, including hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, calcium, magnesium, iron, to name a few. When we talk about these chemical reactions, it is the metabolism that we are studying when we talk about nutrition, because it's the sum of all of these chemical reactions that occur within the cells. And there are two concepts with metabolism. One is the breaking down of molecules known as catabolism, and one is building up of molecules known as anabolism. Enzymes are proteins that catalyze or speed up a rate of a chemical reaction, and you will see them in the nutrition world as anything that ends in ASE, like lactase, lipase, and these are enzymes that help. For instance, lactase helps break down lactose in milk. Anatomy and physiology are two separate things, even though they are part of the whole human function. Anatomy studies the structures of the body, and physiology studies how those structures function. So the smallest function of any living organism is a cell, and we have about 100 trillion. These cells form tissues, tissues form organs, organs form systems. So the systems of the body, there are so many of them: the cardiovascular and respiratory, muscular system, nervous system, for example. But the one that we'll be focusing on in this course, obviously, is the digestive system. So the digestive system is very important in not only taking in nutrients, but breaking them down and digesting them and then absorbing them into the body. The GI tract is the muscular tube that extends from the mouth to the anus. You can see in this diagram that it begins at the mouth, goes through the esophagus, into the stomach, small intestines, large intestines, into the rectum and anus. And that's the path that food will take, and we'll get into that a little bit more in the upcoming slides. One term to be familiar with is bioavailability. It is how much gets absorbed. So we can eat a lot of nutrients, but how much of them are really bioavailable? Do we absorb 90% of them, or do we only absorb 50% and the rest goes out to waste? That's a big term you'll see in the supplement world, because sometimes supplements only have a 30% bioavailability, meaning only 30% get absorbed and the rest get eliminated in urine. So let's look at the mouth. One thing to remember, and this is important specifically when we think about digestion. Digestion begins in the mouth. People think it's in the stomach, but digestion begins in the mouth. Mechanical digestion is when we're biting and grinding, mashing food into smaller pieces, and then chemicals react, such as saliva and salivary amylase and lipase, that start breaking down the starch and fat in the mouth. There's different things in the mouth. Taste buds are sensory structures in the tongue, and we can taste sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and savory. We also can smell different chemicals that come out when food is being cooked, or even when we're just holding food and can smell it before it is being cooked. So the esophagus is the next structure, which is the tube that connects the pharynx to the stomach, and the epiglottis is the tiny little fold that is over the trachea, so that when you swallow, food doesn't go into the trachea. If that little flap wasn't there, when you swallow, you could end up inhaling food into the trachea, which would cause suffocation. Peristalsis is what helps move the small amounts of food through the intestinal tract. There's a little muscular contraction that kind of just takes that food mass and pushes it along. In the stomach, you have the gastroesophageal sphincter, which is at the end of the esophagus, and it opens up to allow food to go back into the stomach, and then it closes so it doesn't back up into the esophagus, giving you reflux or heartburn. In the stomach, you have a mixture of gastric juices and something called chyme, where foods are starting to finally be partially digested. And you have mucus that lubricates and protects the stomach walls. The pyloric sphincter controls the rate at how much chyme is released into the small intestines. So that connects the stomach into the small intestines. Here is just a diagram that you can look at to understand the different parts of the stomach into the small intestines. The small intestines is where digestion and absorption is occurring. So we digest partially, we begin in the mouth, we digest partially in the stomach, and then we continue digesting in the small intestines. But that's where all of the nutrients are absorbed. Nutrients are absorbed in the small intestines. You have three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. We can transport and absorb these nutrients in the small intestines because of villi, which are tiny projections that help move the food along, and they have absorptive cells that allow them to transfer into the blood. The large intestines has two sections, the colon and the rectum, mostly absorbing water and minerals in the large intestines, not the nutrients. Feces is formed, and in the rectum, the lower part is where the feces are stored. There are accessory organs of part of the digestive system known as the liver, gallbladder, and duodenum. They help in the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. They help in the digestive process as well. So the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas, as stated, are accessory organs to the digestive system. The liver makes the cholesterol and bile, gallbladder stores the bile, and pancreas produces digestive enzymes that help in the process. Sometimes when we do not take care of ourselves through diet, or sometimes because of genetic predisposition, we could develop gallstones, which you can see here in the gallbladder, these tiny structures that, if too many are created, can cause serious issues, because if one breaks through and gets stuck in one of the biliary ducts, that could be life-threatening. So symptoms might be some pain in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen, and definitely be seen via CAT scan. So if you know you have a genetic predisposition or you're having issues, gallstones might be the issue. So that is the beginning of Chapter 4. We'll finish up with various types of things that can go wrong with the digestive system in the next part of the video series for Chapter 4.